Yes, but you don't you have to program or condition your child to a certain extent? How can he go otherwise to school? Or be ready then for the world? So you have to teach him certain things. This is right and this is not right.
There is no one here to program him, and there is no separate person there to program. But the story of being a mother continues. So the teaching of how not to cross, to cross the road and look left and right happens.
Yes.
All those things carry on without there being a separate person.
Right. So how can he make once his own judgment if you do not teach him how to do that?
Judgment happens. Judgment just arises. It has in this case, in this sort of mind body, and it does in that one. The only difference is that most people feel that they are a separate person and that they are in control of everything that happens, and there isn't that belief here.
Yes.
So life arises spontaneously. So
yeah, I understand that. And yet, your husband,
yes,
yeah, does he get a different message from your husband? I mean, you are spacious and emptiness.
And so is my husband and my son, and so is everyone. We are all that, whether we realise it or not. So there's nothing that's unusual or different here. There's still a character and a story going on. The emptiness that he is may or may not resonate. He may or may not become interested in non-duality. Probably not.
Why do you think so?
Most people aren't.
Right. Okay, so let's go back. You said you were interested in Buddhism and you became a Buddhist, and you were hanging out with nuns and monks.
That's right.
And how was that?
It was great at the time. It was just like doing anything else, really. And they're a very nice bunch of people from a Thai Buddhist order, and I think I lived on my own at the time and felt a lot of support in the story of time, in the story of being Halina, from being in a monastery. And when I wasn't in a monastery, I was in my life being a single woman and partying and going to work and having friends, a social life.
Right. So you said you had an affair with a monk?
I did. That was towards the end. I had a very bad back injury. When I was 31, I was disabled out of work.
Right.
And just before that, I was really seeking. I felt I was spiritually seeking. That word spirit doesn't really arise anymore because there's no separation. So I really wanted to feel at home, and I thought about becoming a nun, a Buddhist nun, and because a lot of the friends in the order sort of encouraged that, and I felt I couldn't become celibate, so I made a compromise. And I thought I fell in love with one of the novice monks, or maybe it was just lust, really. So he came home with me. We lived together for a little while, and then my interest in Buddhism fell apart really after that. I had a back injury and I couldn't sit and meditate anymore, and I wasn't getting on very well with this guy that I was living with, and so so that kind of just stopped. That being a Buddhist, just I felt that didn't give me what I was looking for. I was seeking what I already was, really, but I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
So
did he go back to the monastery?
No, he didn't.
Okay, so what happened then? You said you injured your back, and
at the same time my sister died of cancer, and I had a back injury. I was injured out of work. I lost my flat. I had to go home and live with my parents for a while.
Right.
And it was quite a hard sort of year or two.
Yes.
And then I became a little bit better and I managed to go back to work part-time, and then I moved to London. I met my husband, fell in love and got married and had Jamie. And still there was, so life, then I was living in London, happy with our young child, feeling that there was still something missing.
Yes.
So there was still a feeling of, if only I could. At the time, I felt I wanted to integrate what I felt was a spiritual sense and real life. Now it seemed that life is integrated already, really. It's just that we've split it off in our minds.
Yeah.
And so I did a little bit of an interfaith ministry course, and again studied all the religions, and felt that didn't give me what I was looking for, that religions was about humanity and stories, and it didn't feel that I could find anything about something beyond the story, really, something divine I was seeking. And then a friend of mine, Richard Sylvester, who you've met, told me that he had started going to discussion groups, non-duality. It didn't mean anything to me, and I thought, oh no, not another guru, I'm not really interested. And one day Richard mentioned that he was going to see this man called Tony Parsons in Hampstead, where I lived, and I said, I'll meet you for a cup of tea afterwards, but I'm not really interested. And I found myself sitting in a discussion group room in Hampstead with Tony Parsons, and immediately felt that what he said resonated with something. I couldn't understand what he said at all, but I kept going to meetings for about 2 years, and my mind was battling and trying to wrestle and grasp what was being said. But underneath that, there was a resonance, there was a feeling of joy, an expansiveness beyond the body. And that's how there became an interest, really.
Right.
And it felt that what Tony was saying, I had been seeking all my life.
Yes.
And I wanted that.
Yes.
So after I'd been seeing Tony, I went to residentials and his Saturday meetings. And then there was a phase when I seemed to disappear for a day or so. During the meetings, there was a sense of joy, a kind of sense of bliss. And there was still a person seeking at that time. And I wanted more of that. Really what I wanted was the myth of enlightenment or liberation. I wanted to free myself of pain and become blissed out and sort of an empty person who would love everybody. That was, what I thought enlightenment was. And so I just wanted joy. I just wanted more of this joyful feeling. So that kept me going to meetings.
Right.
And what seemed to happen was more and more time went on, pieces of me seemed to be eroded. So the idea of me seemed to be wearing very thin over time. So there was days when I felt very different, when there wasn't such a great sense of me. And there was more just a feeling of this joy. That's how I can describe it. Love is another word. It's not a human love, but it was just sort of being surrounded by love. And that would last for a few days. And then the sense of me would come back, and I'd be devastated and searching again for this joy. That's what I wanted, was this blissed out state. That's all I thought that I wanted. And then eventually the periods of time when there wasn't such an identity got longer, and I was having a Feldenkrais session with Roger Linden, and we were chatting about this, and he just suddenly said, well, there is no inside or outside.